Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This episode is brought to you by Diet Coke. Everything that you'll ever see me do is brought to you by Diet Coke. All right. I am Professor Amadon. I am your English C1000, formerly known as 1A, instructor. And what I'm going to be giving you over about the next 10 minutes is two things primarily. One is just a general 5 minute overview, 6, 7 minutes, something like that, of our Canvas class, how the sort of the hybrid nature of our class is going to work, especially on Canvas. Okay. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of a walkthrough of what you need to do this week. So let's start with at the very beginning. This is a hybrid class. A lot of students have a tendency to come into a hybrid class thinking, oh, it just meets once a week. No, it doesn't. It meets once a week in person. It also meets essentially once a week online. So, what do I mean by that? Do I mean only log into Canvas once a week? Absolutely not. You are logging into Canvas every day. But what you need to do is think about we have 4 hours of class time every week that we spend together. In a hybrid class, we've shifted two of those to the internet, to Canvas, right? So we're going to meet Thursday afternoons from 2 to 4:05, but on, you know, normally what would have been like a Tuesday, we would have met from 2 to 4 p.m. as well. What I've done instead is we're going to have discussions on Canvas, right? So that's going to be some of that student engagement. I'm going to provide lecture videos that I either recorded myself or that I have curated, found off the internet that, were better, fancier, cutesy animation, that kind of thing. So that 2 hours of us engaging with each other and me providing you instruction has been shifted to Canvas, and you need to spend that time on Canvas doing that thing. For example, this week, before you even come to class on Thursday for our first class meeting, there are multiple videos that you need to watch. And there's a discussion thread that you need to complete. Why? Because that's the first half of the week. Our Thursday class meeting is the second half of the week. So every time that you sort of, that you come to class on a Thursday, you got to be thinking, this is the second half of my week. I've already been doing work on the assignment, the readings, engaging in class discussions on Canvas, doing all of that. Now I'm in class and I'm ready to go. The way to think of the online stuff as well is it's not interactive, not very efficiently anyway. Yes, we can do basic discussions, but it's hard to have a real organic discussion online. So we're going to do that in class. What we can do on Canvas is, for example, one of your requirements this week is to watch a video on active reading. So rather than me lecturing for 10 or 15 minutes on active reading strategies in class on Thursday, I'm moving that online because that's not interactive. That's a person talking and you just kind of learning about this thing. That's not a lot of back and forth. We have to do a reading for Thursday's class, but we're not going to discuss that reading on Canvas. We're going to do that live in person together, where I'm going to have some things to say, and then somebody over there in the class is going to say something, and that's going to spark you, and you're going to make a comment, and they're going to want to respond, and then a third person is going to hop in, and then a fourth, and then I'm going to offer up a question or a comment. That kind of stuff is just not possible to duplicate on a Canvas discussion. And so we're not going to try. When we are doing discussions on Canvas, they're going to be pretty basic. Sometimes it's just going to be a post. Sometimes you're going to have to post and then come back, a day or two or three later and reply. That kind of interactive. Great. But it's real basic, right? There's a bug flying around here. I don't like bugs. Anyway, so when we do that interactive stuff, we're in person. When it's less interactive, more static, right? So it's you writing something and posting it, or it's you watching something and taking notes. That is going to be much more efficient for a Canvas experience rather than an in-person on campus experience. I'm hoping that makes sense. All right, quickly showing you the modules. Okay, when you start, it's going to look like this. Okay. All right. So what is this? Our homepage has some basic information on it. My name, by the way, Professor Amadon. Do not ever call me Professor Tucker. That is a last name for other people. It is a first name for me, and not a good one. My parents didn't understand that. They also didn't understand apparently what it rhymes with. There's a lot of profanity out there, and I've been aware of it since I was 5. don't need it, don't want it, just Professor A or Professor Amidon. You'll notice also over here, there is a list of items on your to-do list. So that's what is going to be particularly useful for you. Some students, they prefer the view course calendar. Great. That, lets you see the course for a month, all good. The most important sections for us, though, are going to be the modules. And some of you may already know this. Great. If you don't, that's why I'm telling you now. Okay. The top one is the syllabus. This is just a bunch of small, quote unquote, pages, largely paragraphs, of different material. There'll be a printable version down here. This is going to be the same as the PDF that you got in the email that included this video link. So you've got access to it. I just want to give it to you in multiple spots. Okay, so let's collapse that down. And what we see immediately next is labeled as your online learning and work for week 1. Right? So every week we're going to have a new module. And the way to think of it again is it's the first half of the week that we're doing some work online before we meet on Thursdays, right? In replacement of that Tuesday afternoon class that we normally would have had if this class had been, fully face-to-face Tuesday, Thursdays at 2 to 4 p.m. So what are we going to have to get done this week? Well, there's the WRC lab overview. There's an introduction to W.B. Du Bois, which is like 8 minutes long. There's a quick video on code switching by a Afro-British guy who's living in America in Texas, and he can speak in a variety of dialects and slang and formal academic and professional language and all this kind of stuff. And it's a pretty fascinating kind of walkthrough of what code switching is. And then there's a hysterical Key and Peele Obama code switching skit. It's like 3 minutes long. That really effectively demonstrates what code switching is. And then there's this source number 1. Notice it's called source number 1, and then W.B. Du Bois, Souls of Black Folk, chapter 1. You're reading that for Thursday. It's like 5 pages. You can get it done. So you'll notice that the module is broken up into instructional content, readings, and handouts. Okay. And then the second half is assignments. So what are the assignments I need you to do starting like now? Okay. So they are in order of date due. For the most part, I got to move that quiz. So by Wednesday, the 18th, you need to post reply number 1. Okay. You're going to come back before Thursday's class and reply. Notice it says post/reply. If it has both post and reply in the discussion name, you got to do both. If I just want you to post and you don't have to reply to anybody else, it's going to say post number 5 or whatever. You are going to enroll in the WRC lab on Canvas. This will take you 30 seconds. Okay, super quick. Diet Coke is so good. And then you're going to try to find my office, hopefully before class on Thursday, for extra credit points. Take a selfie of you in front of it and submit it to this assignment. Why do I want you to do that? Because I got to start linking your face to your name, because I see you half as many times and I am terrible at learning names. So the only way that's going to happen is if I can go back into the selfie file and just constantly see pictures of you guys. So if you take a selfie that shows your face, not one of these like, here, can you identify me by my ear? Don't do any of those kind of selfies. Make sure your face is visible so that I can see your name and your face connected together. And then by Sunday, at the end of this weekend, you need to complete syllabus quiz number 1. And then there is a WRC lab assignment that is due by Saturday, the 21st. Take me seriously on the following statement. If you don't complete your writing center work in the first 2 weeks, I'm dropping you and you're not going to get back in the class. You will be gone. This is a requirement that the district has mandated. So we're not playing games on whether this is important or not. Okay. It is important. Because it's so important, I take it seriously and I drop students for not completing it. There's also a direct correlation between the quality of the writing center work that students do and their grade in the class. The students who take my classes and do not pass them, more often than not, have a failing grade in the writing center assignments. So take them seriously. Then week 2. Oh, wait, but week 2 is blocked out. Correct. It is. It is currently locked, and it will be locked until this Thursday at 3 p.m. So here's how I'm making our weekly modules. Because this is not an online class, this is a hybrid class. I don't give you 4 or 5 weeks worth of modules all in one shot that you can work through at your own pace. I do that for online students because some students will do a lot. They'll be like do 2 weeks worth of work in 1 week. And then they will do nothing for a week and then another couple weeks worth of work and then nothing. That's not our class. Our class is much more time sensitive because we meet every week. So I'm going to unlock week two's module at 3 p.m. this Thursday in week 1. Week 3's module will be unlocked Thursday at 3 p.m. during week 2. So basically, when we're halfway through our Thursday meeting, the module that's going to be good for the next week unlocks. Okay? Because that's when you're going to start working. You leave class on Thursday. Now you can start working on the stuff that's going to be due early that next week. Week 3, we're in class. Week 4 unlocks halfway through, and now you can get started on it. Okay. So you're never going to be able to get ahead in the sense of like, if there's something that was due in week 5, you don't get to do it in week 2. That's not how this class is going to function. We are a weekly group. We are all doing the same work every week, right? We are all participating in the same discussion over that same 3 or 4 day time span. We are all in class together on that Thursday. That next weekend, everybody's doing the same writing center stuff or the same quizzes or the same discussion posts, watching the same videos. And then we're going to come in on Thursday and learn from that and build on that and do even more. Okay. So we are doing this together. It is not self-paced. I'm controlling the pace. The online stuff is the first half of the week. The in-person stuff is the second half of the week. I'm hoping that makes sense. Okay, last thing I want to show you, this will be really quick, is the syllabus. So first off, just go a quick scroll through. This is our syllabus. It's the PDF that you got. I'm showing it to you in Word. It has all the same stuff as the syllabus module does on Canvas, but there is a section down here that is really detailed and important. Okay? So it basically is going to walk you through what are we doing in class that week? What are we doing on Canvas that week? And you see how it's split up. So we have an entire column here on in-class work, right? So we're going to start the first essay this Thursday. We're going to understand the core concepts of double consciousness and code switching. We're going to talk about response writing, like how you're going to be able to use your own personal experiences, find and develop support from your own experiences, that kind of thing. And we're going to talk a little bit about AI usage just because we need to be on the same page on that. On Canvas, we're going to be doing introduction to the course. That's what you're getting right now. The professor, which is that walkthrough video in discussion number 1. And you're posting about yourself in discussion number 1. You're going to reply to peers. So that chunk right there is happening in that discussion post. There's also that video link for active reading strategies. You want to make sure that you go watch that. There's also going to be a handout that I provide for that. So what do we all do online? Active reading, introduce ourselves, that kind of thing, basic stuff. What are we doing in person? Understanding the essay on, what we're doing, sources, what kind of writing it is, that kind of thing. Over here in the assignments column, we have the online portion. You'll notice that post number 1 is due on the 18th. You got to reply by noon on the 19th. If you reply later, you can get partial credit, but it's not ideal. We have a DLA that's due Saturday, and we have a quiz that is due Sunday. What are we doing for 219, our actual class meeting? You are going to read the first half of Chapter 2 from the Critical Thinking, Reading, and Writing textbook. CTRW is the abbreviation. That's the one that's listed on the syllabus. It's the one that the bookstore is trying to sell you, or you can rent. However, whatever format you've got, a rental, a purchase, you got an ebook, doesn't matter. You're reading the first half of that chapter. That's why I don't do page numbers. I more often than not say you're either reading the whole chapter, half a chapter, do your best to estimate on that, and you should be good. We're all on the same page. And then remember when I pointed out that Souls of Black Folk Chapter 1 was labeled Source 1? That's why I have it listed here just as Source 1. So you know what source it is. Okay? There's week 2, week 3, and so on. I'm hoping this video is helpful. I know I talk fast. If you need to, slow it down, watch it again, get a Diet Coke to stay alert, like I am trying to do. And I will see you this Thursday. I look forward to meeting you. I look forward to working with you. Again, this is kind of a new experience for me. It's been a few years since I taught a hybrid. I'm looking forward to it. I've got some good ideas. I've done a lot of in-person teaching for the last 25, 28 years. And I have been doing a lot of online. So I'm really comfortable in Canvas. I'm just now trying to find a good balance for us between those two as a hybrid course. And I expect you guys to tell me where I'm falling short. Let me know what I can do better. I want to be the best instructor I can for you guys. I'm here to help. All right. I will see you Thursday. Take care.